Hey, creative souls, writers, word witches, thank you so much for tuning in to the last video in my week-long series in recognition of Banned Books Week 2025. If you don't know me, my name is Johnny, and you can learn more about me at my website, johnnymazzacco.com, my blog, writingthroughthebody.com. I'm also on Substack and LinkedIn, and you can find links to all of those and much, much more below in the description to see how I can help you in your writing life. So, the book that I will be talking about today was first published in 1884 or 85. It is a controversial book with some people, claiming that it perpetuates a problem most of us would like to overcome, while others consider it as a critical work against the problem, and that problem is racism. Do you have any idea which book it is? If you guessed The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, you were right, by Mark Twain. Okay, so this book has been banned for its use of the N-word and for racial stereotypes. And as I said, some find it racist and harmful. Others believe it serves as a gateway to critical discourse on the subject of racism. So earlier bans of the book centered around coarse language and what was deemed as trashy content. And these kind of make me chuckle. But these are like Huck scratching himself. Some people found so offensive, and I don't know. I just find that funny. And the use of the word sweat rather than perspiration. So I guess that some people don't understand how diction works. And in a piece of writing like this, sweat is obviously the better word, right? But of course, as I first said, the book was published in 1884 or 85. And I suppose people were a lot more prim and proper, at least on the surface, at least in public. Um, Even though The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was praised as a great American novel, it was banned almost immediately. So Concord Public Library in Massachusetts pulled it from their shelves in 1885 for being trash. That's the word that was used. More than a century later, it continues to be challenged because of its racial slurs. So, why was it given the Great American Novel status? Well, according to PBS and the LA Times, this status is due to its pioneering use of vernacular language and its significant influence on American literature. Despite all the ongoing controversy since its publication in 1885, its exploration of freedom, racism, and identity, combined with its vivid portrayal of the Mississippi River and its inhabitants, solidifies its status as a pivotal work in the American literary canon. Okay, so these are the words of others, not mine. I'm reporting to you what I found. Both Marshall University and PBS claim that the primary reason for the challenging or banning of the book is due to the use of the N-word and racial slurs. So it's the most frequent reason for contemporary challenges of the book is its liberal use of the N-word, which makes students and teachers uncomfortable and leads to its removal from school curriculum. So would it make you uncomfortable if you were a student in a class full of other students and you were required to read Huck Finn? How would it be different for you if it were a class of all white students or if there were also students of color in the class? Would that change your comfort level? And if so, why? I think that's a really important question for us all to ask ourselves. If you were a teacher, would you feel comfortable requiring students to read Huck Finn? In this day and age, I'm asking. As a teacher myself, I'll be really honest, and I'll say that yes, in this day and age, it would make me uncomfortable to require my students to read it and then discuss it in detail in class, and especially to require students to read it aloud in class. Because we would sometimes do that when I taught. We would read passages in class and I would ask for volunteers. Maybe that makes me a less than educator, and I'll accept that if that's someone's opinion. I could see having it on a syllabus as optional reading material for those who wanted to read it. So I would love to know in the comments, tell me what you think about this. I'd really love to know your thoughts. PBS has offered insights about Huck Finn, and it, of course, has a Wikipedia page where you can learn more about the resistance to it. And closely aligned with the use of the N-word is the way some people say it perpetuates stereotypes of Black people, especially in the way Jim is portrayed. The Free Speech Center talks about the aforementioned coarse and trashy content that I can disregard as perceptions of time and just let it go. But I think the conversation around the book regarding racism is an important one. So, as I said earlier, I would not feel comfortable requiring students to read it. And maybe that's even blasphemy to some educators. It's the requiring it that would make me uncomfortable. Now, do I think it should be banned? No, not at all. When I taught in the classroom, I often gave students options about what they would read. And I could easily see myself in certain types of classes, depending on the focus of the class, offering Huck Finn as an alternate to another novel we might be reading or for extra credit. And if I did the extra credit option, I would also give another novel that might not be so triggering for some that they could also read and write about for extra credit. Because I was always trying to consider students' comfort level while providing them content that really would, hopefully in the end, expand their view of the world and the way they are able to not just see it, but to talk about it and to back up their claims about certain things with evidence, like examples and valid sources, right? So I have a few questions for you, and I would really love to see your comments about this. Do you think it's reasonable and or appropriate to think that literary canons can or should change? Do you think Huck Finn should be taught as a great American novel if it is carefully couched in a conversation about racism and racial stereotypes? Do you think we ought to excuse some of the complaints about it because of the time in which it was written? There are never any clear answers to topics like this, but it's always worth having a conversation about, so long as we stay civil in the process. So please leave me your civil thoughts and comments below. I would love to know what they are. Thank you for following along this week for my series of banned and challenge books in recognition of Banned Books Week 2025. I hope it got you interested in a few titles you haven't read yet, and that it got you to thinking about our freedom of speech, what we can do to maintain it, and how to let the powers that be know right now that we won't be bullied into silence. It's really important. As always, I send you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.